Before saying what I want to say, perhaps I should point out the standpoint of my little reflection on what has been going on here. I am trained in philosophy, so I teach philosophy. So part of what I will be trying to say to you will somehow connect to what philosophers do, which is raise some fundamental questions, which is look at very basic questions connected to issues. The other thing is, I am an African who is at home in the world. So I will also try to tease out what this means for my own understanding of what this project is about. I was born in Nigeria, like you have already heard, but also I'm a German citizen, and I teach in South Africa, which also is a different place compared to other places. In fact, when some South Africans want to travel to other parts of Africa, they say, I'm going to Africa. So it's not a given. Then I've lived in other places. I just came here from the United States. But what does this mean? I'll come to that. Looking at stories, Chinua Achebe, who happens to be a very known writer from an African country, Nigeria, himself was confronted by the power of stories. While visiting the United States with his family at a point, he had an experience which led him to writing children's book. His older daughter, Chinelo, wouldn't want to go to school each time he's trying to take her to school. And then he started trying to find out why is it that she doesn't want to go to school, because otherwise she was a very good student. I mean, she was always excited about school. And he discovered that although the teachers were very conscientious people, the stories that the book, or the books they used rather, told were not stories that she was very comfortable with. And Achebe, because of that experience, decided to write his first children's book, which is called Chike and the River. So here we have the power of stories. But for the Storybooks Canada project, listening to all the people that have spoken to us, first from Asma we heard about the multifaceted nature of this project. We also heard about the multilingual dimension of this project. Ingrid told us about the connections that this story is able to make. The businessman she encountered, how the story was able, this project was able to help him to connect the newest generation, the children, himself, and the older generation, his parents, the grandparents of his children. So that means that there is the power of connection, between different generations through this kind of project. Then we heard also about the varieties, that is, all the things you can do with the project. What has all this got to do with anything? For me, I think there are two important things that we have to note. One is to ask if children actually have a right to stories. Do children have a right to grow up with diverse stories, not just a single story, which Chimamanda Achebe has talked about, not just a single narrative, which is you are in this culture, no matter where you come from, this is all you get, and this is what it means to be integrated. I think that this project tells us something really very new and very, very important, which is that variety is the spice of the good life. Listening to Monica's presentation about the other children of this project, that is what is going on in Tanzania, the generative nature of this kind of project is important, because literacy for many Africans for a very long time has meant literacy or education in one of the colonial languages of English, French, Portuguese, or Spanish. So even in the African context, you see the power of this kind of project, the power of diversity with regard to the stories we tell our children. But not only that, there is the other dimension of this entire project, which for me connects to what we can do with the different stories of our lives. The fact that this project was inspired by the Africa Storybook Project doesn't in any way stunt the growth of the process that we are seeing in the different narratives, in the different presentations that we have heard. So this goes to show that Africa can be global in a positive way. That for many people, not just Africans, but also people from other parts of the world, that today, just like people from the former metropolises must live in different parts of the world, that for them is a very, very important thing, which is that there are different voices, there are different ways of approaching our experiences, and we can also be global from the formerly neglected parts of the world. That the power of story is something that is very fundamental to the way we see ourselves as human beings. And in all this, I think that the African Ubuntu expression that I am because we are becomes very apparent. Because when we look at all the things we have been told, all that we have listened to at the this evening, we see that it is not just a project of one person. It is a collective project. Different people contributing from different parts of the world with different kinds of skills, with different kinds of curiosities, with different kinds of ideas about how to make this thing very great. That is just an expression of the spirit behind African stories, the African worldview, which is that to be a person, you cannot separate yourself from the community dimension. There is that intricate, intrinsic kind of interconnection between the individual and the community. So that is why the idea of Ubuntu is forever very important, which is that I am because we are. Not you are because they are, but it begins with the self and proceeds to the community in a symbiotic way. So I thank you for the opportunity to say a few words about this project, and I'm looking forward to seeing in the next 40 months that you have 40 more stories in 40 different languages. Thank you very much. Yeah.